Well, this just came up on my radar. Trump was relentlessly booed at the NFL game. I was like, oh, well, this is a turn of events and very damning for a self-confessed egomaniac. It's very dangerous to starve an egomaniac of feeding the ego. He said it himself, he holds grudges for decades. So if you turn on him too hard, all his little friends that feed his ego, well, that grudge is going to become revenge. So we're not really going to watch his speech. We don't really need to. No, he's not smiling so much. But the little bit that I could see from this crowd, I was like, oh, that's what I really want to see. How true was this booing? And yeah, there was quite a bit of booing. But most of the crowd, because you know the squeaky wheel gets the grease, you've got booers and you've got cheerers. And then you got everybody else. Now, the cheers were less than the booers. Everybody else, I'd have to say, from what I've seen so far of this, maybe 70% maximum were pretty much apathetic, which is pretty much people who just don't want to be involved with you. They don't like you, and so they've turned their back. And if you really push them, they'll boo you. So this guy, 88, is going to be a really good indicator of what to look for when you see crowds, because he does both instances. He's just standing there. You got this guy in front of him waving. Everyone else, most of them, you sit there and see them turned towards the greens. Trump's there. So his fan club, as you can see at the very top, have all been allowed to come close to where he is. So you start looking at this angle, who's facing forward and who is not. Now, you can't really get anywhere yet because nobody's booing or cheering this particular spot. And people, even if they dislike something, will turn around and look at it. But when you start seeing movements like the gentleman that was in front of 88, waving, obviously, they're the cheers.
Please welcome the family of fallen senior airman Brian Bell.
So, and then we see this gentleman down here. Please welcome. The announcer comes on and he's going to start announcing the military guys that are coming through. So now we have a duality of the crowd who is torn of honoring their soldiers and dealing with a politician. So there's going to be a lot of going back and forth. Oh, by the way, when you see 88 down here, it's announced 88 does not sit there and wave. Nor does he sit there and get all happy and start clapping for the airman that was announced. At this point, you're going to hear that you're hearing whistling, cheers, that kind of thing. But no one's turned around yet. Either they don't know and they're unaware that Trump is there. But at this point, this particular group of people have indicated that there is something of interest behind them just by how many have turned around to look. So I'm going to assume, just because humans are humans, they all know he's there. Enough have indicated there is something interesting behind you that they know. You also know all the ones that have turned around to stare at Trump are not clapping for the patriot that has walked onto the field. They're too much involved following the politician.
Please join us as we honor the family of fallen Air Force Technical Sergeant Scott Tuffman. Let's have another round of applause for our families as we honor and thank their loved ones who served and protected our freedoms. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, as the President swears in enlistees of our United States military.
So the announcement starts, you hear the cheers. He's got the tight, typical grin with the boos. So you see the eyes kind of like, they wince in, and then the boos get really bad. And he tries to distract himself by looking over to someone else. And it gets really tight.
Our United States military.
And now we've got 88 here, who's finally turned around to give his 2 fingers up. So everyone now has turned around to give their salutations. 88 is still giving his salutations of his 2-finger salute. I'm sitting here skipping through this, and it's just boo, 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 boo. Now, obviously, when they were announcing these poor airmen to get this special reading, the crowd was not booing. Not everybody was cheering, but they weren't booing. They'd come to see a NFL football game. They weren't there to sit there and enlist the enlistment. They didn't really care. But apparently they do care to boo.
And defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I don't even think the announcer had this much volume he had to fight through to announce any of these individuals. This is a really big gut punch.
And allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States.
Ooh, and then you heard the volume uptick. The President of the United States. I tell you what, this does not give me any pleasure seeing this. I'm sure most of you are like, ugh, it's sickening. It's sickening when it was done to Biden. It is sickening now as it's done to Trump. Because it's not just about they do a bad job or they're part of the deep state. It's the realization that everything that you had hoped for that president to do and be is now realized by everyone. And the hope is gone. It's the realization that if the crowd really, really turns, that chaos is coming. And it's a little terrifying.
And the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God.
So he's having to even yell over them. I mean, obviously, it's bleeding through this room that he's in. And you see his body jump. You see him bring in these deep breaths to scream into this microphone to try and get over the noise of the booing crowd. He knows, people. And you know what the real tell of all this about how the country feels? And I mean the majority. You remember when you were not allowed to boo? If anybody said anything negative or if it was heard, hecklers in the audience, what did you hear? Do you remember? USA! 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 Not anymore. When you get to this point, there's nothing to save this. It can't be all of a sudden that, I don't know, the 3-letter agencies all of a sudden start doing their job. Because the crowd at this point is not going to support it because they've seen too much. So there's a distrust. Now there has to be a mass firing and then a hiring of the ones that they do trust. And that is the only way. Tick tock, I told you. I told you. The end of the year is pretty much here. No accountability. FBI still harassing people because his girlfriend's got her feelings hurt. And the other one's running cover. And we're going to reopen the government and all of those rifts that you thought that we're going to get rid of all these wasteful programs. Well, that's not really true either. Remember to support us on Patreon. We've got exclusive content, audiobooks. If you like us, leave a like. And more importantly, share.
Thanks for watching.